Welcome back to another class of the topic planetary cycles and asteroid. And I didn't know where to enter this class, but I need to introduce you Chiron. I avoided speaking about it so far because Chiron is not a planet and not a star and is recently relatively discovered. And even in the Model 1, I mentioned it to be the ruler, accepted to be also the ruler of Virgo. And I said that Mercury and Chiron ruling Virgo because we found that Chiron has typical or classic description to explain behavior of Virgo. The Vedic, the ancient astrology, sidereal astrology, not accepting or not considering Chiron, not considering Uranus, not considering Neptune, right? Mostly we are having planet that is ruler of two signs. So Chiron, let's see what we get in Google. Chiron is a small body orbiting the sun in the outer solar system that crosses Saturn and Uranus. We speak in this model enough about Saturn and Uranus, and it's also related to the outer. Okay, so it's different, is extraterrestrial in a way, and this is the opposite from what we consider Mercury, that is very close to Earth and very fast-moving planet. Once thought to be an asteroid, it is now classified as a comet or a minor planet. In astrology, Chiron is also known as the wounded healer. Okay, you could find a lot of things. We may relate Chiron to healing and pain and what is odd in our life and how we can correct and fix, heal our wounds. And I'm going to say also what it does to the market. We do consider Chiron, and Chiron has, because has similar or parallel or compatible archetypes of Virgo, because Virgo is ruling medicine and cure and order, right? So Chiron has a cycle of 50 years. Very non-symmetrical, but 50 years. And when we're born, we may have a Chiron return after in our 50. This is why the years 49 to 51 are very important by the healing process that we are doing, by defining our ego and by healing our wound. People that born with Chiron in Aries, Chiron is passing around 5-6 years in a sign. So it's generational. Chiron is a senator, is wounded healer. So it's illustrating the issue that we are facing. People that born with Chiron in Aries, those that born in the 70s, has wound with their ego and to express their desire. People that born with Chiron in Taurus have issue with their self-security and with security and with feeling safe, secure, family relationships, and economical issues. To connect with also with their body. I have Chiron in 0 degrees of Taurus. I had a very low self-esteem in my very first half of my life. And then I needed to work on this in more inner levels. And around 50, we are usually healing the wound. We have already the tools. So as we are seeing healing, in the market is also related to corrections. And when we are going to have odd, challenging aspect with Chiron, we may expect two weird patterns that will be challenging to interpret. It's drive people crazy by the new paradigm that is forming in order to create something better, and how interesting that is part of the belts of Uranus and Saturn, the father and the son, or the grandfather and the son. So I would like to show you how we are interacting with Chiron, but maybe before this, I'm just going to show you the symbol of Chiron, that is like a circle with K. This is usually how I'm drawing it too. We may see even in a chart of someone, it's not appearing here, but this is a symbol of Chiron, as we see here, the K, Chiron, the wounded healer. And we are using our weakness to be our strength. This is the healing by self-love. This is the nourishment of Virgo. And we could also learn here, all those things you just know to find through your own chart. So I prepared here sort of example, and we are now considering Chiron to be another mini planet, asteroid, above all what we know: Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Chiron. So just to illustrate, if Chiron is located in the chart here, and this is 60 degrees, it will be Chiron sextile the MC, right? We could, if this is a planet here, for example, we are going to get here Venus. We can describe also probably a possibility, depend, that Chiron opposing Venus, and etc. So this is the symbol of sextile, as we know. This is just for the sake of the example. Chiron. I gave here another example, Chiron on the ascendant. So we are writing Chiron conjunct the AC. Or if Chiron is on the MC, we may describe it Chiron conjunct the MC. Okay, this is very important. I'm bringing it because we are going to read this in indexes as a list of position of different planets on the same time, without the need to look specifically in what is happening on the dial. We also can go to our Astro Gold to do display here, just to have notice what is happening, and we see only Chiron. We do search. When Chiron ingress, Chiron 0 degrees of Aries. When it happened, Chiron ingressed Aries in February 2019. And when the next time that it will enter to Aries? In 2068. 50 years. And when Chiron will move to Taurus? In 2027. We already mentioned this year. It is going to be a semi-square between who? with, remember, between Saturn and Uranus. And exactly then, Chiron will ingress to Taurus. Just for the sport, Chiron will ingress Gemini in 2033, after the Saturn-Uranus will complete the cycle. So interesting how those things are helping us to know what is happening in the middle and what will be the wound and the need for change. So when we will see Chiron in the index of the chart, for example, this example, that Chiron is conjuncting the ascendant, without knowing what other aspects are happening after this and before this, with Chiron that is coming on an aspect and we're seeing Chiron doing the aspect on the other, it's something that is related to correction, to healing. And we know that usually when a planet is conjuncting the ascendant, this is a message that something wants to fall, usually, not always. We need to investigate in what sign is it happening. And I'm not speaking here about fall or exaltation. I may consider it to be almost like Mercury, but not. Mercury is driving in Virgo, is exalted in Virgo and falling in the opposite of Virgo in Pisces. I may assume that Chiron also won't function good in Pisces. And we had Chiron in Pisces. Chiron entered Pisces in 2011. And it's continued until 2019. So, yeah, you can say that it was weird how we involved with technology and with the changes from 2011 to 2019 when Chiron was in Pisces, and we learned more about spiritual abilities maybe, and to dominate the virtual world when we have people on from another side of the world after a computer. Is even weird for people sitting in front of a computer and seeing friends instead of sitting in front of friends in a way. But this is part of the healing to let us convert spirituality of being alone to feel the unity of and connection to beyond. And even if people will not appear in the screen, we will be able in any time in the future, maybe in 2061, if some of us will continue living, to be able to communicate with the ether, with another visionary abilities of connection. Before 2011 and 2010, 11, it was in 61. Yeah, it's interesting to check also how the world was in the 60s. Feels that Chiron in Pisces really gave a sort of relief in Pisces to what we remember like more liberated opportunities. Interesting to investigate it. But the main topic that I wanted to bring here is that Chiron is related to correction. And correction can be up if we were going much down for a long time. It's not specifically speaking about spikes like Uranus or unexpected parabolic moves. It will be very slow usually and different to understand, or on down correction from long bubbles. Chiron can interact also with a fast moving planet, for example, Venus to Venus to oppose it's so hard to draw here when I'm on the computer. Okay, Venus can oppose Chiron, and when Venus, that's speaking about the value, will oppose Chiron, this will be sort of a message that something here need to correct the value down. But imagine a concept. It's very hard to understand Chiron as a wounded healer, that things that actually are changing or painful are going to correct, and everything has a compensation in life. Our hardship and our weaknesses become our strengths as we are learning to live with them and to find a solution. Imagine like a mix between Saturn and Uranus is like a sort of a storyteller of all the transaction and the transition that we are moving between those planets. But the last bottom line of what I want to illustrate with Chiron is that is speaking about correction that is not a fast move correction, but this is a balancer. We say that Saturn has sort of a heavy and stopping, like putting a stone on a thing, not letting moving higher, and even stabilizing the drop down is like a brakes. Chiron has a mixture of brakes and like like it's old weird car that is not symmetrical, like with almost square wheels. Observe on Chiron and try to play with the dynamic, what Chiron does with other planets. For example, when Chiron, let's do it quick here. By the display, first of all, let's put only Pluto and Chiron. Pluto is speaking about end and transformation, and Chiron is the wounded healer, the correction. And to what I noticed, when Chiron and Pluto are doing such a challenging aspect, this is the start of the challenge of the healing after a big disaster. So we are going to Chiron, here, aspect, Chiron, square, Pluto. And here we are getting 1947. This is the end of the World War II and the beginning of new countries after the end of the United Kingdom in the Middle East. NATO formed 2 years after, because this is Israel born. Then we had in 1992, after the break of the Soviet Union, more wars in the Gulf, Iraq. Then we had, this is 2 years aspect, almost like it takes time with Chiron and Pluto to interact. Another challenge that we will need to build, and we will need to build, is 2028. That, as we know, it's very challenging semi-square between Uranus and Saturn in 2027. And probably from 2028, we will need to recover and to find new solution for resources and management of people. So the same we could do for opposition, where it will go in the future. Chiron and Pluto will oppose each other in 2043. And before this, they already squared in 65. Very curious what happened in 1965. The United States occupied the Dominican Republic. Riots erupted in Watts, California, and 50 years ago, exactly 50 years ago, this is the Chiron topic. What happened in 1966, the Batman television, but I'm not sure that it lasted in 2026. No, it lasted 2025 and 2020 and 1965 and 1964. What happened was eventually a year, a half century ago, humans were making strides towards space travel beyond the Earth orbit, and Tokyo hosted the 18th Summer Olympics. So, seems that the Chiron Pluto is related to big steps of discoveries, and you see President Johnson signs the Civil Rights Act. This is the healing coming after big challenges that were introduced, and we know that it was also related to bombs in Cuba prior to this event. So that's what I wanted just to illustrate. Chiron is speaking about a new phase challenge that we learned to live with situation that wasn't easy to handle, and we will chew with this more once we will see this in action with more aspects happening. But this is all new to continue investigating cycles, check more pairs, try with Chiron, the cycles of Chiron Pluto, the cycles of Chiron Uranus, the cycle of Chiron Saturn, Chiron Jupiter, and start to see how they are involving. Chiron is a masculine planet, is a centaur, is half human, half horse, and is here to sustain the pain and to continue the war despite of what seems to us the end of the world, and helping us to recover and to convert weaknesses to strength. In the next class, we are going to discuss about retrograde phases, retrograde planets. We are not going to check all the retrograde phases, just to get the alignment of it and to get some indication on the chart what is happening usually when Mercury retrograde, when Mars retrograde, and Venus retrograde. See you in the next class, and never stop to research.